Unfortunately, the autoplane never caught on, partly because it never actually flew. But the idea was good, so it stuck. There were many subsequent attempts to get a flying car up and running, most notably in the 40s and 50s. And perhaps the most successful and best known was this. The Taylor Aerocar.
This is the only one flying or driving in the world. Changing gear, double the clutch, we're in.
It's of 1956 vintage and one of only 5 Taylor Aerocars ever built. Incredibly, this noddy car is one of the most valuable I've ever driven, at around $1.5 million. For its time, it was incredibly innovative.
Because the rear wheels were used when the aeroplane landed, the car had to be front-wheel drive.
On the road, there are a few obvious shortcomings.
It's got a 3-speed crash gearbox. It's got appalling drum brakes and these wonky little wheels set out at the side. It's just useless. And the noise is colossal. After you, please. After everybody. The gear knob comes off in your hand every 5 minutes. Oh, God. Sorry. If it's this bad as an aeroplane, then we're in serious trouble.
And the conversion from car to plane does little to dismiss my concerns.
That's all that's holding it on. It's a sort of springy pin. Latched.
Quite a long time later, with the wings and tail in place, it's time to put my life in the hands of my chauffeur-stroke-pilot, Sean Sweeney.
Repair $02 cleared for takeoff with plane.
That's the first time I've ever been in a car and someone has said clear for takeoff. This is very confusing. This feels like a light aircraft, but with a couple of exceptions. That's obviously a steering wheel. 30 miles an hour, down the freeway, 40, 45, 50 miles an hour. Still feels like a car. We're flying.
At last, I'm in a car that really does fly.
I've been fantasising about this moment since I was about 6 years old, so that's absolutely fabulous.
Thankfully, as an aeroplane, the Aerocar makes a lot more sense.
I think I'm right in saying I know that this is the first time this car aeroplane has flown for nearly 3 years.
Yes.
And I am probably the first passenger for, what, 20 years?
Yeah, for about 20 years, you sure are.
Well, I like it.
It's a mechanical marvel. The car engine now powers the propeller. And the more I flew, the more I was willing to forgive its crimes in a previous life as a car.
Other people who have sat here, where I am today, in this very flying car, include Marilyn Monroe, Lana Turner and Ava Gardner. Though not all at the same time, presumably.
So this finally settles an age-old pub debate amongst sports car enthusiasts. The man whose car can fly gets the girl. And should you want one, there is one currently for sale on the internet. But they are asking $3.5 million, and it isn't even airworthy.
Why don't you go ahead and fly the airplane? You go ahead and put your feet right up on the rudder pedals, and you got the control stick right there.
I am actually flying the Aerocar. How about that? Hold your hands up in the air so they know I'm doing it. There you go.
that the rocket pack is the future. A flight limited to a few hundred yards, at best, isn't quite what I'm after. But one thing is becoming clear. To build a viable personal flying machine, you need to be very smart, quite unhinged, and just possibly a bit suicidal. Time to head for Japan. If people are willing to strap rockets to their backs, what about something else, like a helicopter? After all, a helicopter first flew over 100 years ago. It occurred on the 13th of November 1907, when this plucky Frenchman, Monsieur Paul Cornu, clambered aboard his new contraption, took off and climbed to an altitude of 1 foot, where he remained for 20 seconds. Here is a picture of his helicopter. Monsieur Cornu was, in fact, by profession, a bicycle manufacturer. Can you tell? Nowadays, helicopters tend to be large and bulky things, but I'm here to see an altogether smaller strap-on chopper. The smallest helicopter in the world. It's the mind spawn of Gen Yanagisawa, who used to design cars before turning his attention to the backpack helicopter. This is the 4th generation model, which now includes a luxurious seating option. And in keeping with the Zen philosophy, it's amazingly simple. Now, a normal helicopter would have a tail sticking out of the back here with another smaller rotor working in that plane, and that is necessary to stop the whole thing spinning round and round uselessly. This doesn't have that. What it has instead is 2 sets of blades that contra-rotate, because this cancels out torque reaction and gyroscopic precession, i.e. the spinning uselessly round and round effect. On a normal helicopter, the pitch of the blades, that is the angle they make relative to the air, is variable and controlled by a very complicated bit of metalworking up on the top. Here, though, they are simply fixed and held in place with a couple of bolts. Instead, the whole engine and rotor assembly moves around on this sort of compass gimbal arrangement at the top, and that means that in order to steer, all the pilot does is push this one way or the other, a bit like he might on a hang glider. It becomes very, very instinctive, and this is all in the pursuit of simplification, because come and look at the controls. All you get is the throttle lever off an old lawnmower, a few buttons and a few switches. That's it. None of that multitude of levers and knobs that you normally get in a helicopter. It's brilliant. Time for another fearless lunatic. Here he is. It was with some trepidation that I watched as he strapped himself in, or strapped the helicopter on, if you prefer. The key to its compact size are its 4 tiny yet powerful engines, each weighing about the same as a large chicken. So it's like being held aloft by 4 chickens, each with the power of 10 horses. You might think that the pilot's flight plan is a little conservative. That's not because he's afraid, although he should be. Because it's a prototype, regulations prohibit him from flying beyond this small area. A surrounding network of high-tension power lines ensures he sticks to the rules. That's rather excellent. Can I sit in it?
Sure.
Sorry. What's the highest you've been in it?
Personally, because of the regulations in Japan, about 5-6 meters off the ground.
And what's the highest it would go above sea level?
I would say about 1,500 meters.
Really? Would you do that?
Not now.
Why not?
We were working on a ballistic parachute, and I would want that before I go that high.
I think that's a really excellent idea, the ballistic parachute. Call me a doubter if you like, but there's always been something I haven't really liked about helicopters. And I think what it is that they seem to beat the laws of physics into submission instead of just collaborating with them and flying naturally like a proper aeroplane does. Helicopters make such a meal out of flying. However, having said that, I really would like to have a go in this thing.
Imagine what your neighbors would say if they saw you driving a vehicle like this down the street.
There's definitely a lot of James Bond appeal.
Often referred to as the flying car, the Transition is a one-of-a-kind two-passenger aircraft that can retract its wings to drive on the road. Transforming from plane to car takes only 30 seconds.
I want to pull up to somebody's driveway and unfold the wings and have an airplane in there driving and then wonder how it got there.
Let's lift this whole thing off there.
A team of MIT-trained engineers began developing the Transition nearly 4 years ago. Earlier this month in Plattsburgh, New York, those engineers experienced their Wright brothers moment.
The truth is, until the vehicle flies, 75% of your risk is that first flight.
We flew, yes!
That was gorgeous.
What do you think of that, huh? That looked beautiful from up here, I tell you.
I think the fact that this looked like just any other airplane taking off is actually a really wonderful thing.
Fantastic. Fantastic. That was the most beautiful little flight I've ever seen.
In both car and plane mode, the vehicle is powered by unleaded gasoline from a regular gas station, eliminating the need for pricier aviation fuel. This will help make the Transition one of the greenest, most environmentally friendly airplanes in the world.
If you can keep this thing in your garage, like you can keep your SUV in your garage, but you can fly through the air at twice the speed of your SUV and get twice the gas mileage of your SUV.
Now that the Transition has proven it can take off and land smoothly, engineers are continuing extensive tests with plans to deliver the first vehicles to customers in 2011.